Looks like things are slowing down and getting people in. So we'll go ahead and get started. Thanks so much for joining us for this briefing. I'm Shannon Jones. I'm the president and CEO of Groundwork Ohio. Many of you know who we are, but we're a nonprofit, nonpartisan public policy organization. We're the state's leading advocacy organization focused on issues that impact that prenatal period to age 5, really focused on children. I'm pleased with public opinion strategies, and we're grateful for them for conducting this poll. They're one of the nation's leading public opinion and research firms, and we're going to hear from Neil Newhouse, who's a partner and co-founder of Public Opinion Strategies, and his colleague and partner, Jarrett Lewis, who both were involved in this survey, as well as a survey we did a little over a year ago back in late 2021 on the same topic. But first, to give a little bit of background on this, we did do polling, as I said, back in 2021. And what we learned back then was that 40% of working parents with kids under the age of 5 were having to cut back on work to care for their children. And anecdotally, we heard about that all the time, where it was hard for people to stay connected to the workforce. But we know this was a big issue in late 2021 for many parents. Half of the parents at that time said they had serious problems with childcare that were impacting their work. They were expressing an inability to meet the work demands and family responsibilities, or simply even affording the cost of childcare. So in aggregate, the data was really telling us that childcare is an economic issue. And one of the things that really stuck out to us during this over this poll was that 60% of the women who were surveyed, who had young children, some were in the workforce, some were not in the workforce, but 60% of them said if they had access to quality, affordable childcare, they would either return to the workforce or that they would work more hours. And so that was such a huge number. We really wanted to explore that again. And that demonstrated to us just the connection with the workforce. So we also know that the circumstance around childcare has really been exacerbated because of the pandemic. I mean, this has been an ongoing problem, but it has gotten much worse with the pandemic. So in essence, we're taking another look to see if things are improving for parents. So the next slide, please, is while the numbers were really striking back then, the other piece in the background was the economic impact that was becoming more apparent. Some of you may know that the Council for a Strong America, just February of this year, did a research report talking about how the U.S. is currently losing $122 billion a year because of the lack of access to quality childcare. And so to put that in perspective for those of us in Ohio, it means Ohio is losing $3.9 billion per year in economic impact due to the lack of childcare. So that's a pretty substantial economic impact. And so now that we come upon a state budget time, we have this unique opportunity to address this crisis head on, really focusing on helping parents and supporting kids, but also businesses and the overall economy. So now I'm really just going to, next slide, please, hand it over to Neil and Jarrett with Public Opinion Strategies to get right to the numbers.
Hey, thanks, Shannon. Excuse me, I'm getting over a cold. Jarrett's going to bring up the PowerPoint. We've had a partnership with Groundwork for the last 3 years or so, and loved working with them and admired the goal that they are setting for the state. I want to walk you through what we did just recently in Ohio. So we go to the next slide. we completed a survey of 800 registered voters over sample, which means we actually interviewed more than 1,200 people, 435 parents with kids under the age of 5. This is all done online, which is the easiest way to do this. The margin of error in this is plus or minus right under 4 points. And for the parent over sample, margin of error plus or minus 5.5 points. Next slide, you see the sample. I go through this to kind of validate that we have a random, reliable sample of adults in the state. We have 81% of the samples white, people of color 19%, 14% African American. Partisanship, Republicans have a 6-point advantage over Democrats, 36-30. The sample was 53% women, 47% men. The age of the sample, 18 to 34 is 18%, and then 65 plus, 25%. Education level in the state is a majority less than college educated, 55%. And then we stratified the sample by DMA, Columbus getting a third of the sample, the 3 C's getting obviously the majority, but Columbus 33, Columbus 22, Cincy 16, and Cleveland 33. So the next slide, we show the demographic profile of the parents with children under the age of 5. This is the 435 Ohioans we talked to. They were a little higher in terms of percentage of color. They're a little more female, 55%. They're more evenly divided on partisanship, and a majority come from the suburbs in the state. And just to give you a feel for kind of the relationship between these parents and childcare, 40% of these parents say that they or their significant other stay home full-time, no childcare. So 40% stay home with their kid or has an immediate family member who does, 29% part-time childcare from family, friend, neighbor, etc. Full-time childcare, 18% from a family or neighbor, 11% get full-time childcare at a childcare center, and 6% get part-time childcare in a childcare center. Just so you get a sense of the mix of people we talk to. Now, what I'd like to do is I'm going to go through the key findings and just briefly go through it. It's only 7 points, so it won't take very long. And then Jarrett's going to walk you through the actual data itself, and then we're going to open it up for questions. So the number one issue in this is a lot of this data is reaffirming what we have seen in the previous survey and kind of bring and updates it to some extent. So this is Ohio. The major issue facing the country is the economy and inflation right now, and that's certainly reflected in this data. Economic issues dominate Ohio's concerns. Early childhood education, childcare are strong secondary issues on people's minds, though. Next slide. What you see is Ohioans are clearly feeling the impact of economic slowdown. A significant chunk rate their own financial situation negatively, and many have had problems paying their rent or mortgage and credit card bills in the past few months. What we saw here is Ohioans are being impacted, but parents are being even more impacted by the economic slowdown. So on next slide, for parents, childcare is difficult to access and to afford. A majority of parents in the state say childcare is difficult to find. Overwhelmingly, more than 80% believe that childcare is expensive, and parents believe that the pandemic has made it harder to both access and afford childcare. And we hear that when we talk to people doing focus groups and the verbatims on the survey, and people are basically saying just as we have supply chain issues, we have employment issues, and it's very difficult to staff these childcare centers. So when it comes down to the working parents themselves, they just leave no question that they're having a difficult time balancing childcare and work. 40% say they've had to miss work, leave early, or lose focus because of challenges with childcare. 1/3 of working parents say they've lost more than 5 days of work in the past 2 years because of a lack of childcare. So we've then kind of backed this into census numbers, number of parents, number of people working in the state. This means that roughly 800,000 working parents in the state have cut back their work hours because of a lack or challenges finding childcare. 800,000 working parents. When we probed this in the survey, Ohioans point to the lack of staffing as a problem. 2/3 say that local childcare facilities in the area are having a tough time with staffing shortages. A majority of parents say they or someone they know are on the wait list for childcare, and not just on the wait list. 40% have been on it for longer than 6 months. 2 more points to make, and then Jared's going to go through this. Shannon pointed out that the linkage we found 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago, we did our initial survey for Groundwork, which is the linkage between childcare and the economy. And it's simply reinforced in this survey. When parents without childcare were asked what they would be able to do if they had childcare, the most common response was work more and get a job. Those parents with childcare responded when asked what childcare allows them to do, work more. Wow. Parents believe childcare allows them to work more and provide for their families. And finally, the last point is, against this backdrop, there's deep and broad support for increasing funding in the state for childcare. This is certainly timely given the governor's budget, getting ready to be presented. Fully 80% of registered voters and 87% of parents favor increasing funding for childcare. And reinforcing the economic tie, 2/3 of Ohio moms said they would go back to work if they had access to high quality and affordable childcare. These are just some phenomenal numbers. And I'm going to turn it over to Jared to let him walk through the details on this.
All right, thanks, Neil. Appreciate that. Let me walk you through the data here that Neil just kind of covered at a high level, get a little more in the weeds. Just to start, Neil talked about this. Early childhood education and childcare issues are strong second-tier concerns. We asked this question of, here are some goals that people might have for Ohio. How important are these to you? And again, in getting inflation, the cost of living under control is a top issue. You see towards the middle, making sure that children get a strong start in life through quality early childhood education programs, lowering the cost of childcare, and helping provide childcare for working parents with young children. These numbers are, as you might anticipate, very high among parents of children under the age of 5. And Neil showed some of those data points about tying it to the economic impact and the effect it's having, this issue with accessing high quality, affordable childcare. You see that the second column, parents under 5, 51% say making sure that children get a strong start in life through quality early childhood education programs is extremely important to them. Helping provide childcare for working parents with young children, 50% of parents with kids under 5 say that's extremely important, and lowering the cost of childcare, 49% of parents under 5 with kids under 5 say that is extremely important to them. No question, the economy is impacting Ohioans, especially parents. Let me show you a couple data points on that. Ohioans are divided over the state of their personal financial situation. Things have slightly deteriorated for parents since the fall of 2021. Those numbers in the gray box that you see there, that's the data from our 2021 survey we did in October of 2021. The left side, that's all Ohioans. 54% say things are excellent or good, but look, just 10% of Ohioans say that things for them financially are excellent. 45% of Ohioans say that things are fair or poor, with 15% saying things are poor. The numbers among parents on the right side, a little bit not as great. But what's interesting and concerning here is the numbers for parents have deteriorated since 2021. 57% in 2021 said excellent or good. That number has dropped to 52%, and you see the numbers have increased with those who say fair or poor. So things are weakening economically for parents across Ohio. More than a quarter of Ohioans are struggling financially, and again, things are bleaker for parents. On the left side, in the last few months, have you or anyone living in your house been having serious problems paying your rent or the mortgage? The number on the far left there, 23% of all Ohioans say yes. That number is higher among parents, 27%. And on the right side, last few months, you or anyone living with you have been having serious problems paying credit card bills, loans, or other debt. 33% for all Ohioans say yes. More than 4 in 10 Ohio parents of children under 5 say that this has been a serious problem for them or someone in their household, paying off credit card bills, loans, debt. So clearly a lot of pressure on these parents, and you see those numbers again. The gray box, those are from 2021. The numbers have gotten worse for parents relative to where things were in 2021. Over a third of working parents in Ohio have faced serious problems meeting both work and family responsibilities in the last few months. We asked this question over the last few months: have you or those in your household faced serious problems meeting both work and family responsibilities? Among all employed Ohioans on the left side, 3 in 10 say yes. Among working parents, again, with children under the age of 5, more than 1/3, 36% say that they've been facing problems meeting both work and family responsibilities in their house. Neil touched on this, walking through the key findings, but for parents, childcare is difficult to access and it's difficult to afford. A majority of parents believe childcare is difficult to find. This has increased by 14 points since 2021, and all Ohioans overwhelmingly believe that childcare is expensive. So on the left side here, you see this. Do you generally believe that childcare in your local area is relatively easy to find or difficult to find? Among all Ohioans, they're 55% say relatively easy, 45% difficult. Among parents, 45% relatively easy. A majority, 55% say difficult to find. And again, you see those numbers in the gray box above. Those are 2021 numbers. You see we went from 59% of parents who said relatively easy to find all the way down to 45%. So it has become harder for parents to find childcare, they're telling us. And on the right side, this is pretty compelling and overwhelming to me. Look, a lot of Ohioans have no familiarity or relation to childcare. Their kids are grown, they don't have children. They're not involved in anything related to childcare, so they're not thinking about it. But look, more than 8 in 10 Ohioans believe that childcare in their local area is expensive. They get it. They understand the cost problem, and they're, for whatever reason, they're right on par with parents, which you see on the right side, in terms of believing that childcare where they live is expensive. And a plurality of all Ohioans believe that it has become harder to access childcare since the pandemic started. A majority of parents believe it's gotten harder to afford and access quality childcare in the last year. On the left side, we have this question: since 2020 and the start of the pandemic, do you think the availability of high quality and affordable childcare has gotten better, gotten worse, or stayed about the same? Among all Ohioans on the far left, 46% say it's gotten worse, 6% say it's gotten better, 27% say it's stayed about the same. Among parents, a majority, 51% say it's gotten worse, 12% say gotten better, and 27% stayed about the same. So Ohioans are recognizing the access challenges that have continued to get tougher since COVID-19 started. And on the right side, this question asked of parents: in your sense, over the last year, has affording and accessing quality childcare become easier, harder, or stayed about the same? Again, a majority of parents in Ohio believe that affording and accessing quality childcare over the last year has gotten tougher. 47% of Ohioans are worried about being able to put food on the table. We asked these questions, kind of a series of, do any of the following things apply to you or someone you know? 47% concerned about being able to put enough food on the table over the next year. 41% of all Ohioans say that that it applies to them struggling to feed their family. And then almost 3 in 10 say having issues accessing high quality childcare applies to them or someone they know. And the numbers are worse among parents of children under the age of 5. You see the concern about being able to put enough food on the table over the next year. Almost 60% of Ohio parents, children under the age of 5, 49% struggling to feed their family, and a majority, almost 56%, say having issues accessing high quality childcare. The issues that Ohioans are seeing, they're more pronounced among parents with younger children. A significant chunk of parents say that they've been having serious problems affording childcare, and more than 1/3 of parents in Ohio say that childcare issues have impacted their work. You see the question on the left. In the past few months, have you or anyone living in your household been having serious problems affording childcare? Almost 1/4 of Ohio's parents. On the right side, over the past few months, have you or those in your house faced challenges with childcare that have caused them to miss work, leave early, or lose focus? Almost 4 in 10 parents in Ohio say that this applies to them or someone in their house, presumably often a spouse or partner. So we asked an open-ended question to go further on that. In your experience, please share a couple of ways you were personally having issues accessing high-quality childcare. So those parents who answered yes to that question, when they went further in the open-ended question, when they say that they're experiencing issues accessing high-quality childcare, they talk about cost and they talk about the lack of availability. So those parents who talk about cost, they talk about the high cost of quality childcare as a huge barrier. One Richland father says he depends on his grandparent or on the child's grandparents to help because he cannot afford regular childcare. A female voter in Franklin County tells us that her job is only $15 an hour and daycare is too expensive. For one mom in Cuyahoga County, the cost of daycare is the same as a paycheck, so it is not worth it to go back to work. One Lorain County father explains his family cannot afford it, so his wife had to quit her job to stay home. Others talk about the availability. Neil mentioned the 6-month wait list, and we'll show that momentarily. But for many Ohioans, there just simply aren't enough good options where they live or available spots where they live. According to one Lucas County mother, a lot of the type A care in my area is full, and there's a waiting list. And she doesn't want her children in a house setting type of daycare. One Lucas County father explains the demand is greater than the services. For one mom in Jefferson County, daycares are completely booked and you're on a wait list for months unless somebody leaves. One female voter from Seneca County says they're not even daycares for all the children needing care, and the centers have very limited hours. And one Mahoning County father claims it's nearly impossible to find a good place to send my kids because everywhere is full. Working parents face special challenges balancing employment with childcare. Neil touched on some of this data in his key findings overview, but problems with childcare, they're having an economic impact. Nearly 1/3 of parents have missed more than 5 days of work in the last 2 years because of a lack of childcare. And we'll start there on the left side. We asked this question that we hadn't asked before. How many days of work would you estimate that you've missed because of a lack of childcare? And you see 32% say that they've missed more than 5 days because of a lack of childcare. On the right side, over the last few months, have you had to cut back work hours to care for your children? 40% of working parents in Ohio say yes. That number in real terms is more than 800,000 Ohio working parents have cut back hours in just the last couple of months. That's a staggering statistic and clearly one that's having an impact on productivity of businesses across the state. More than 2/3 of all Ohioans believe child care centers are experiencing serious staffing issues. So again, this is an issue where people across the state recognize, like they did for child care centers being, expensive or unaffordable for a lot of folks. They also recognize that there are staffing issues plaguing child care centers across the state. The left side here, this question or this data is shown of all Ohioans. More than 2/3 say that child care centers in their local area are having serious staffing issues. The numbers are a little bit higher among parents, but everyone sort of seems to understand across Ohio that there are serious staffing issues plaguing child care centers around the state. A majority of Ohio parents indicate that they or someone they know are on a wait list for childcare. 52% in fact say that themselves or somebody that they know is on a wait list. And among those who are on a wait list, more than 40% of those on a wait list have been on it for longer than 6 months. That's that table on the right. You see 45% in fact have been on it longer than 6 months. So we asked another open-ended question. Of two different questions actually. We asked on the left side among parents who do have somebody home full-time with their child. On the right side, we asked this question of parents who use childcare. You see a common theme here. Those parents who do not have childcare on the left, we asked, what if you did have childcare, what would that allow you to do that you don't now? Work more, get a job, go back to school, work better shifts, all things around employment. On the right side, again, this question was asked of those with childcare. What does having childcare allow you to do that you would not be able to do otherwise? Again, work more. You see that's what they kept telling us over and over and over again in the survey. And in fact, to underscore that, pulled some of the actual quotes out from the group on the right that does have childcare. That what does having childcare allow you to do that you would not be able to do otherwise? The ability to focus and get things done without stress. One Hamilton County Mail at the top left tells us, on the top right, work regular business hours, female from Stark County. Right below that, miss less work and use less PTO, have time to myself to take care of my needs, from a female in Hamilton County. On the left of that, to be there on time. Bottom right, work a better paying job and get more hours. And these are the things that they told us in the open-ended question that having childcare allows them to do that they would not be able to do otherwise without childcare. This is a staggering statistic. This question was only asked of non-working and part-time working moms with children under the age of 5. More than 2/3 of Ohio moms say they would go back to work if their child had access to high quality and affordable childcare. You see this is agree, disagree type question. 40% strongly agree, 68% overall agree. And look, it's up 9 points from 2021 when we first asked this question, when 59% of Ohio moms said that they would go back to work. Those numbers are up almost 10 points in just 15 months, 16 months. So they're telling us that they want to go back to work if they had options, more high quality and affordable child care options, excuse me. Just a couple more slides and we'll open it up for happy to take questions. There's overwhelming support for increased funding of childcare and early childhood education. I think a lot of the data that we've gone through so far probably gives some foundation for voters being very supportive of increasing funding for childcare across the state. In fact, fully 8 in 10 Ohio voters believe the state should increase funding for childcare. We asked, do you believe Ohio should increase funding for childcare in order to increase access, affordability, and quality? 80% say yes. Among parents, almost 90%, 87% say yes, the state should increase funding for childcare. And look, in this day and age, we're in such a hyper polarized environment. Across the board, more than 2/3 of voters, irrespective of party, tell us that they believe Ohio should increase funding for childcare. Almost 70% of Republicans, more than 3/4 of Democrats, and more than 90%, more than 3/4 of independents, and more than 90% of Democrats say that yes, Ohio should increase funding for childcare in order to increase access, affordability, and quality. When voters and parents are asked about the current budget for early childhood education, so what we did here, we did an A/B test, or we half sampled the survey. One half of the survey read the question on the left. The state currently has a $10 billion education budget and spends 3% or $300 million on early childhood education. Do you believe that's the right amount, or do you believe it needs to be increased or kept the same or decreased? The right side, similar question, but the state currently has an ongoing education budget and allocates some of it to early childhood education. Do you believe the amount they spend now is about the right amount, or should it be increased, decreased, or kept the same? There wasn't much difference in the way that this turned out. A little bit stronger on the, a little bit higher response on the sample B, the one on the right. But either way, more than a large majority, more than 60% of voters believe the amount Ohio spends on early childhood education should be increased. When you combine the results, you have 2/3 of voters who say that. And again, the numbers among parents are stronger. 3/4 of Ohio parents of kids under 5 believe that funding for early childhood education should be increased. Support is strongest among parents, Democrats, and voters of color. But again, across the board, you see majorities of all voters, Republicans, Independents, and Democrats, all ages, from 18 to 34, all the way to seniors, and voters of all ethnicities, telling us that, yeah, the funding should be increased. And when we ask them, I think we have just a couple more. When we ask, why do you believe that, in your own words, what are the most important reasons why you support increasing early childhood education funding? There's several themes they tell us. First one, it's about investing in the future. A lot of Ohio voters see increasing funding as an investment for the state's future. One female Hamilton County voter explains it builds the foundation for the rest of their lives, because kids will learn important skills that they will build in for the rest of their lives, both academically and socially. A male voter from Marion County believes early education will help the children develop their social and emotional skills, which will help them a lot in the future. One Summit County female voter thinks everyone benefits as a whole, while a female Stark County voter expresses without early education, some families can't get ahead and their children are missing out on the opportunity. One Franklin County male voter summed it up kind of really short and succinctly, and believing early childhood education gives children a fighting chance. For others, it's about the economic opportunity for parents. More funding means that they may be able to go back to work. One Logan County mom says, as parents, we need someone to keep our kids so we can work. A female voter from Mahoning County says childcare lets parents work, which gets them off benefits and sets them up to succeed. One female voter in Stablo County calls it senseless to work when all your wages are going to pay childcare expenses. And one female Butler County voter tells us that childcare funding means people can go to work and not have to worry about missing work or how they pay their bills. And then finally, a number of voters think increased funding would help parents with the cost of daycare. One mom in Knox County says she's put children in preschool and it costs a lot, even being in the working class. A Lorain County voter explains childcare is eating up what little money many people make. And a Lake County mom points out not everyone can afford to have a stay-at-home parent, and children need access to high quality support while parents work. And another female voter says, not everyone can afford the best care. The child should not be punished. And that is it. So we are happy to take any questions.
So this is Neil. Let me just review the key points again. Why don't we go ahead and
Yep.
stop the sharing of this. Bottom line is, economy is the number one issue facing the state, but early childhood education, childcare is a strong secondary concern. For parents, there's no question that they find childcare difficult to access and difficult to afford. And this is an ongoing concern, ongoing problem that we saw a year and a half ago when we did our previous survey. And because of COVID and because of inflationary issues, everything else, people are having a very difficult time balancing childcare and work, missing a ton of work, over a period of time. The pandemic has only increased the challenges that parents in Ohio feel about childcare, about getting childcare, and that the linkage between work and childcare has never been stronger. There is a sense that we are leaving workers on the table by not funding childcare, that we'd have thousands of more workers in the workforce in Ohio if we solve this childcare issue. And there is significant support, as Jarrett went through, for increased funding for childcare that really cuts across party lines. So with that, turn it back to Shannon.
So Becca, I'm just wondering, I don't know how to utilize the Q&A function. So if there's any questions, we're happy to, while we have Neil and Jared on the line, they're happy to answer any questions about the data. Becca, why don't you share? Because I don't know how to do that.
You're doing a great job, Shannon. I don't see any questions right now. Hi, everyone. I'm Becca Thomas, the Director of Communications for Groundwork. We'll give everyone just kind of another minute. If you have any questions, feel free to post in the Q&A. I'm also going to share my email in the chat. If you want to follow up directly for an interview with Shannon or other questions for Neil and Jarrett, feel free to send us a message. The recording and all the slides and all the poll data will be shared on our website shortly after we conclude this call, and I'll be sending that link to all attendees from today's call as well.
Great. Thank you, Becca. It looks like there's in the chat, you put your email, and we appreciate your time today. There was a lot of participants on and staying on for the whole time. So I know Jarrett and Neil, there's a high level of interest in your work. So we appreciate you joining us today. Like Becca said, the slides will be available on our website here in just a few minutes. So thank you for joining us.